do the Twitch and the YouTube.
Just pick one.
What if I do both?
The way you posted it last time, just make sure you
Uh-huh.
at least one is like big, in terms of like
Oh, one of the
the
thumbnails.
the the thumbnail, right? So it's more eye-catching to like click on. So yeah, you removed it from last one.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want it to be too big or favor one over the other, but I realized that also lowers our visibility after I did that. So
Yep.
I'll keep the Twitch one.
Mm-hmm. I like Twitch better. We get more interaction that way. We are also live.
Hello.
Morning, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And my CPU is pegged at 100%. Yay!
Can't wait for Robo.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Freaking
Let's
Hangouts
see.
is the worst piece of software.
Who's ready to just dive in? You want to just get it going, boys?
Yeah, episode 31. Is this the one we're
32.
doing?
32, man. 32.
32. Oh boy.
We're leveling up.
Man, where does the time go? I'm sure it flies when you're having fun.
Yes, it.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
You know what to listen to. You know what to do.
We're posted, by the way.
Sweet.
So
We're live on YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. Yeah.
What's up, Heidi?
yay.
For joining.
Hello.
Welcome to Industry 4.0.
Welcome and good morning, everyone, to episode 32 of i4o. I'm joined today by Ervin and Jeff. Jeff, good to have you back on the show.
Thanks, man.
Well,
Good to be here.
Yeah, missed you guys. Missed you in particular.
Just me. You've had Ervin.
Yeah.
Fine. I get
Ervin
no
is-
love. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm tired of talking to you. But yeah, so we have an exciting new business to discuss for the episode. We have a little bit of follow-up on cryptocurrency. We have a little bit of news about Firefox overstepping its boundaries, and some laser beam talk. So let's jump straight into it and get on with the cryptocurrency talk. So I know we mentioned this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, but this Engadget article details that as online advertisement begins to fail, sites begin to mine cryptocurrency. So this is an interesting take, and this is kind of the path that we wanted them to go in, almost dropping advertisements or considering mining cryptocurrency for revenue in the background of your web browsing experience. But I like the first line in the article. It says, "Bubble? What bubble?" Ignoring the potential for a huge crash in Bitcoin, and that's a whole different topic in itself. But people seem to really be taking a liking to cryptocurrency, and we're starting to see it implemented in very mainstream ways. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on how you think this is going to pan out for websites, especially if people are calling this a bubble.
I mean, ad blocking has been more and more prevalent by users. The websites are seeing a big hit in terms of revenue that they're receiving from customers because more and more people are starting to block ads through extensions on their browsers. And the ads are getting worse and worse. I know one of the main reasons I started blocking ads is because they're just bad. They're real bad ads, and they take up the entire page, especially when you're on mobile. It just makes the whole experience not very nice to use in terms of just browsing. I'm just trying to read an article, and it just giant ad pops up in the middle of the screen. So for one, I'm willing to trade my CPU cycles for the website to make money on another way other than ads, so that I
As long
don't
as it's not
have
during
to.
the show.
Yeah, as long as it's not during the show.
You don't have any additional CPU.
I don't
left.
have currently no additional CPU to give. But yeah, I'm completely fine with this. It's a different way of getting revenue for the site, and might be maybe even more profitable than an actual going through an ad agency like Google.
I think it could be. It's interesting that this is like a script injection method, though. Just the concept of doing that when you're accessing a web page and having it use your resources to achieve a profitable outcome for the owner of the site or whoever is injecting said script. It's definitely a different model. I'm not sure how to feel about it, if I'm being honest. Ads are annoying, but at least you have the option of like disregarding them or not buying the product. Your
I like the idea where you have to opt in to, like, hey, do you want to see ads or you want to mine cryptocurrency for us?
Right.
You get the choice. I like that more.
I do. I think that's the best possible option for this, instead of doing both or just one.
Or like
I actually like that.
Or like it detects like, hey, looks like you're using a ad blocker. Would you like to mine Bitcoin instead to support our site?
Right.
I might do that for certain sites that I love to read. I love their content, right? But I hate their ads on it. And it's like, I want to support you. I want to support your business. I'm not against that at all. If you're putting out good content, I want to support that. But if you're putting intrusive ads on there, I'm still gonna block it. I'm sorry.
Right. And it's important to note, specifically to this article, the reason why it's being brought up again is a Twitter user, Noah Dinkin, spotted a Starbucks location overtaxing its customers' machines to mine for cryptocurrency, Monero. So the reward site for Argentina was using its portal to run CoinHive's code through injecting scripts to farm the coins. That's the reason why that it's being brought up today, as opposed to just when the trend was spotted in September when we reported on it. But Starbucks hasn't responded about the cryptocurrency mining, so it kind of leads people to believe that it may be done in a semi-shady way. Like they're not commenting on it openly, or maybe it's something else. It's still kind of open to speculation at this point. But yeah, we've seen it before in sites like Pirate Bay and other websites, but I think that transparency is important, and something that when you do this for people, because you are doing something akin to malware when you steal CPU cycles. And I mean, when you look at it with JavaScript injection and stuff like that, like websites do it all the time for other purposes also. So I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's still something that I think requires transparency.
Yeah.
So
that's something else worth noting too, is that malware operations are using this injection on like things like Chrome extensions, or if they hack a website and insert it for their own good. You have people who are basically hacking websites, throwing this in there, and then making themselves a boatload of Bitcoin or whatever you call it, Monero. Monero, yeah. By injecting this on users for their own benefit as opposed to the website operator. Something else that I wanted to talk about is how this is going to affect advertising in a different way. If this does become popularized and you have crypto mining going on websites as opposed to seeing online ads, for example, I don't think those ads are just going to go away. I think they're going to show up in another part of our lives that we may not expect yet. So keep that in mind too. The companies that would no longer benefit from having their ads placed on a website are going to still need to advertise their content somewhere.
Yeah, and specifically to CoinHive, this is Also, I know you guys use uBlock Origins, or I don't know if you use that or AdBlock Plus, but a lot of these ad blockers are, and even AdGuard as well. They're calling it crypto jacking, and a lot of them have openly started blocking these scripts from being run. So especially uBlock Origin, apparently this is the I think they say that in the article it's the second most frequently blocked website for customers. CoinHive is. So it looks like that a lot of the popular ad blockers and kind of the people in control of what JavaScript is allowed to run on your browser have flagged this as malware, at least for now. But that's just something else to note for this as well. So if you're running uBlock Origin or another one of the popular ad blockers, I'm not sure if AdBlock is doing it, but that's a whole different note in AdBlock's practices versus uBlock Origin. That's a whole different discussion that we could have. But it's interesting to see that some of these ad blockers have taken a stance on it. So
yeah, agreed.
Yeah. But you know what hasn't been blocked? Firefox has just recently been caught installing add-ons without people's notice or without telling anybody. This is very akin to the U2 album that Apple installed, except the only difference was Apple told you right as they did it. Apple was very transparent about that right up front. But so a curious add-on, according to the article, called Looking Glass started popping up on Firefox for not everybody, but several users, whether you gave it permission to or not. And it made it look like people were being hacked almost. I know that some of it was just inverting text, and it's just something that, and that, like, there's the description that you have up on the stream. My reality is just different from yours. So it's a little bit creepy for people who weren't expecting this.
Yep.
Especially coming from a show such as Mr. Robot. So, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on, like, why, or what do you think? Is this overstepping their boundary, or is this perfectly within the rights of Firefox to install add-ons without users' permission? See if we can get a discussion going on what that means for the consumer, because I personally think it's overstepping a little bit. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't like this notion either. I think it's overstepping a bit. I don't really see what the big benefit was for them making this their time to try it either, so to speak. Mr. Robot, great show. Sure, I like it. Bringing something alternate an AR game, also something that's kind of trendy and cool, but I don't know why you'd potentially anger your user community with something like this and kind of force it on them. Irv, what do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely not right that they did this and people were opted into something that they didn't realize they were opted into already by default, which is kind of shady. Yeah, so it was more of an opt-out type of feature than an opt-in. I like opt-in better, where you have to physically click a box to accept, like, exactly what you're accepting. But here, people were signed up for something against their knowledge. Yeah, it's definitely not right. You're getting into my machine. You're putting inside something. In this case, it wasn't anything nefarious, so it wasn't malware or anything, but it could have been. This could be used against, like, a hacker could have gotten access to this type of functionality, right? If Mozilla servers got hacked, they could release any extension that they want to any user who's opted into this type of program. That's just a scenario that I can think of.
Right. And this comes from Mozilla's Shield Studies program. So users who were part of this, it seems like it's it's a bit of a beta program that Firefox has, and it is something that some people have evidently not even been aware of what they were signed up for. So it's a platform available on all of their Firefox channels to allow you to test features. And some of them ask for your permission, and others just kind of automatically install themselves, such as this one. But the fact that people weren't even aware that they were part of the Shield Studies program kind of is a little sketchy. Also, they should make that very apparent. But there has been an update from Mozilla on this because they got some pretty serious backlash from this over the course of last week. So they came out and were saying that while it was sent over to Firefox users who never collected any data and had been explicitly enabled by users playing the game before it would affect any web content, we heard from some of the experience caused confusion, and they're moving it to their add-on store in the next day. And this was probably as of a couple of days ago. So it's good to know that they're listening to people. It was edited 19 hours ago, so they commented that yesterday, or the update was posted yesterday. So it's good to know. And another step that they actually took that I like in the article is that can continue to solve the puzzle, and the source can be viewed in a public repository.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably the best possible way to correct yourself in the scenario like this, so you can see the source as well as try out the app. So anybody who's worried about data collection can go and view the source, or someone could audit it and get the information they need. So that's good to know, and I'm happy that they did that because that's a good response. But you can install Firefox on your new iMac Pro. I know, Ervin, you were speccing one out earlier.
So were you.
So yeah, I got it. This is not a cheap iMac Pro. As a heads up to anybody looking to upgrade their iMac, it starts at $5,000, and we were able to spec it all the way up to $13,000 plus.
If you check all the boxes, and you have to.
Expensive. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna spend $5,000 on a computer, you might as well spend $13,000. Am I right?
Yeah, if you're satisfied with your car and your student loans are paid off, then go for it.
Yeah, if you need something else to open a mortgage on, you can just get an iMac Pro.
Yeah.
And
so this machine was initially announced during WWDC during the summer, June or July, I want to say. And during that keynote, they said it's going to launch in December, and they didn't push it off like they did with the HomePod. So it officially launched on December 14th, and now it's available to order. If you want the 18-core model, you'll have to wait till end of February to get it at this point. But if you want one of the 8 or 10 cores, you can order one and get it in a couple weeks, I think. Yeah, from any initial benchmarks and the people who have looked at this machine to test its performance, it's really impressive. I know that I saw people on Twitter who had access to the machine were using it to edit 8K uncompressed raw video, and it could export a 1 minute 8K footage uncompressed with full color grading and everything in 1 minute. So a 1-to-1 export ratio, which is really, really impressive for 8K video. You can spec it up to 120 gigs of RAM, 4 terabytes of SSD storage, and a Vega 64 GPU. It's mainly designed for pros, like it's in the name. So for anyone in video editing field, machine learning as well, and 3D animators, visual artists, the people who use Photoshop, people like that. That's who mainly it's aimed for. Yeah. And people have also looked at comparable. If you want the same type of hardware in a PC, the price is comparable. So what you
Okay.
get inside of this machine, although some of the things that are actually in this machine are not actually available to purchase off the shelf, but if you can get close, the price is comparable.
Mhm. This has been, if I remember correctly, this has been meant more so to hold over the Pro users for the release of the updated Mac Pro,
Yeah.
the modular rubbish bin, as many people have described it as. So this thing's a beast, to say the least, but it's not very modular, which doesn't appeal to that group. But
Yeah, you don't.
anybody,
You can
yeah.
upgrade the RAM, but you can't do it yourself. You have to take it into an Apple store, an Apple certified service center, and they have to do it to upgrade their RAM. That's literally the only component you can upgrade after purchase.
Yeah. But if you need to upgrade past an 18-core CPU, then you're obviously not in the correct market. You should no longer be in the consumer market if you need more cores than 18
this isn't
cores.
aimed for the consumer at all. I don't think most people will be buying this to run Minecraft, for example.
I mean, I guess I should cancel my order then.
One of the most special things that it does come in the box with is a special space or a black USB-A to Lightning cable that you can only get with the iMac Pro. You can't buy that anywhere else. And you can also get a space gray Magic Mouse and Magic Keyboard, and you can't buy that separately either. You have to buy this machine to get those.
Yeah, the only way you could get that is if you went through like Colorware or something like that and had them custom make one for you. I know that's one of the products they sell, which is so people who are looking to get a space gray keyboard and not spend $5,000 to get it, you can get it that way. But this thing's a beast, and there's a couple videos in the article too from Marquez Brownlee and Jonathan Morrison who've had very good coverage of this computer. So and it's important to note that the 14 and 18 core iMac Pro won't be available until later in 2018, but right now you can get the 8 and 10 core variants. So, but yeah, interesting stuff.
We'll see. So the Apple's been trying to get back into the pro market. The Mac Pro wasn't really a hit. The one that was released, the trash can that you mentioned in 2013, the performance wasn't what people were expecting. Their laptops have been getting a lot of backlash in terms of the performance that they offer for the price that they charge. So Apple's trying to play nice with the pro market because a lot of people who were doing graphics related work were always back in the day will always be on a Mac, right? Just because that's what they either got used to using, or for some people argue that it's better for that type of work, the operating system and the hardware together. So people have been switching over to Windows quite a bit from Mac OS for creative work, just getting more powerful machines to do the same thing. So hopefully this will try to get back those customers that Apple potentially lost from the pro market. But I do think that most people will still be the most hardcore of the pros will still be holding out for that modular Mac Pro that they're currently worked on. They haven't said when they're going to release that. I'm assuming at some point next year. But that's going to be a very interesting thing to watch for, to see what that will be. It will be like a full tower PC where you can just swap out parts at any point. That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
like the old cheese grater Mac Pro. Yeah. I love that tower. I actually looked on eBay to buy one of those towers and convert it into an actual PC. Like,
oh really?
Because I love just the look of that metal case.
Yeah. It made some nice looking towers back in the day.
Yeah.
But it's important because they are losing, like you're saying, the pro market. So this is important for them to try to recapture that market. But so Twitter has some news. they have started recognizing tweet storms with a new feature called Threads. So everybody's favorite people on Twitter, when they go on rants, they can now easily string those tweets together instead of replying to their same tweet. So they're calling it, the company is officially referring to them as Threads, but there'll be a new plus button in the composer section of Twitter when you go to post a tweet. And if you've gone past their expanded character count for whatever reason, for whatever rant you want to go on, then you can just hit a plus button and it will quickly string multiple tweets together, which is kind of a cool feature. But I don't know if this kind of breaks the point of Twitter in a way, because most of its creativity came from people being confined to these tiny blocks of text.
Yeah, and like now they recently also expanded the character count, so it's not 280 characters. Like, I don't really see the point. Like, just keep it nice and concise. I don't want to read entire novel on Twitter. Like, just make your point and move on. Like, I don't.
Yeah. And also, you can't edit tweets.
You can't. You still can't edit tweets. That is still, yeah.
You can correct it in the follow-up on your thread, but you can't edit that first tweet.
You can delete it and then repost.
So I'm interested. So they say hundreds of thousands of threads are posted daily. So the need for an official feature has been apparent for years.
Hundreds of thousands?
So,
how many millions of people use Twitter every day?
That I don't know off the top of my head.
That doesn't seem that high of a percentage. Like, it's not that widely used. From my Twitter feed, I use Twitter daily, just to read it. And I see some here and there, but not many.
Yeah. Well, that's hundreds of thousands daily. So
yeah.
Maybe that's more important to note. But I think this has been a feature, and they actually mentioned it. So not that I think it actually is. It's been a feature in third-party apps for a while now. And the article says since 2008. So, but yeah, it's interesting.
Jeff, any thoughts? Do you use Twitter? I don't even know if you do.
I used to. I don't really see the point anymore. I think that people are bound to do this. They've been doing this for a while without this feature being added. And I think that, maybe if you're telling a story or you have a few key points on the subject that you want to string together, it's useful. People may just want to retweet one of those. But I pretty much agree with you guys. What's the point? I mean, Twitter's here so you can share your thoughts in a concise form. And if you're no longer putting that restriction on, then really, why is it even there? But
the only benefit that I can see is that whenever i4o covers an event, that we'll be able to have a long tweet thread to summarize the entire show. But
I mean, we could start viewing Twitter separately. I mean, it's evolving. It's no longer bound to those characters. Now it's maybe just, your personal text-based news feed for your friends and your peers.
Yeah. Also, if you're watching this on Twitter, hello. We're on Periscope.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that, Jeff. I don't know you joined last time, but we're live on Periscope, which is Twitter owned. So hello, Twitter watchers.
Curious to hear anybody else's thoughts on this too, from the Twitter sphere and from YouTube and Twitch. But yeah, so I mean, at that point, you might as well just write a blog post. But I mean, I think you're gonna see different kinds of creativity.
That's kind of what I'm getting at too, though, Matt. Is like maybe this is the drift away from the need for a blog.
Yeah,
it's huge already. It's kind of merging what it already is with the idea of a blog.
Yeah, Twitter's had a bit of an identity crisis over the past year or two, just because they're losing value and they need to find a way to keep users on the site. So maybe you're right. Maybe this is a move to capture people who are commonly found on blogging forums and hold them to Twitter.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good potential for that. So, but speaking of companies floundering and scavenging for money, Snapchat has released Lens Studio, the tool for creating your own AR effects. And Ervin,
now you can make your own dancing hot dog guy.
Yeah, and with
you want
Snapchat's
it.
ability to write applications, do you think even the iMac Pro could handle this Studio?
It's too advanced. Too
Yeah,
advanced graphics that I don't know if it can handle that.
realer than life.
Real life dancing hot dog dude.
Maybe he'd just be restricted to one dance move.
Maybe.
Yeah, so it's opening up this Lens Studio app it's a native app running on Mac and Windows that lets you design your own AR lens. So those lenses that you swipe over to the right that put things over your face or on the ground where you can put objects down there. Now you can make your own. So it's open to anyone who would like to design it. And you can also do scripting. A scripting API allows you to build additional effects into the design. Like you can change the shapes by tapping on them, for example, or altering the behavior as like if you walk closer to an object. It's fairly cool.
Yeah. I think that Snapchat is onto something with this. All jokes aside, I think that Snapchat, because they haven't been doing too well in stocks. Everybody knows that they haven't been doing too well in finding their market. But I think that Snapchat's going to find a home in AR. So it's new. Snapchat has a very broad market of millennials and even older people as well. And Snapchat is looking for something to hold on to, and it looks like that they're going all in on AR with this, opening it up to everybody. And there's like the future is almost limitless with AR. So this may very well be the thing that saves Snapchat if they can do this right. So
well, let's see what they do, Matt, because I mean, I know it's our next topic, but you got big names getting into AR as well, Google and Apple. Last night prepping for the show, Ervin and I were talking about the if you guys are ready to move in, if we could just kind of merge the two topics. The AR Core developer preview too with Google. I know Ervin and I were messing around with stickers on our Pixels.
I was playing with that the other day too.
Yeah. Talking about like, they have this Star Wars theme. You can add stormtroopers to your environment, and then you walk around and they're exactly where you left them, still moving around, placed in size the right way. It's not difficult to really envision a future where someone like Snapchat or Google or Apple has some kind of tech with AR where you come home and you have maybe like your little AR dog waiting for you, wagging its tail, saying hi, or a robot assistant who is ready to help you manage your schedule, things like that.
Yeah, like a permanent AR fixture in your house.
Yeah, and I mean, as usually there is kind of like a dominant force in this kind of technology, but it's cool to see, Snapchat going to a customization sort of route with the AR. I think that is a huge step in this, as opposed to just saying, hey, place this basically advertiser content on your camera for fun, or a dancing hot dog on your camera for fun. If you can really tweak that in a way where you personalize it.
An important note too about this Lens Studio, just to go back a little bit, it's not for putting it out for anyone who's using the Snapchat app to use. It's more for personal use. Personal in a way that anyone, once you create a lens within the studio, it will generate a snap code, and anyone with that snap code can get it on their phone. So it's not, once you make one, it's not available all within the app without that use of that snap code. And it's interesting.
Chaos if it was. So can you imagine the chaos if it was? There'd be so many.
Oh yeah. And right now it's not going through a formal approval process, which could be dangerous.
Yeah, wow.
But it does say that the lenses must adhere to the company guidelines, but I'm sure there will be a couple that'll go through those guidelines and be published and spread over the internet. It'd be cool to see if I can make an i4o one and share between you guys. And when we do the show, we can post on Snapchat with our augmented reality lens. Be pretty cool.
Yeah, you can just have like a head overlay.
Yeah.
The lower third.
And I like that, the floating lower thirds.
Yeah.
Something also that's important to note with kind of, since we're blending these two topics, with this AR Core 2.0 or Developer Preview 2, this also comes in the same week as the news that Google is taking down Project Tango.
Yep.
As well, in favor of AR Core. So out with the old one and with the new.
Yeah, so Project Tango was a platform where it used additional sensors, additional to just using a camera, gyroscope, and an accelerometer. It had depth sensing cameras on these devices as well. There's several AR or Tango phones that launched, I think 2 or 3. I know there was a tablet as well made by NVIDIA that was more meant for developers to use that launched. So now with AR Core being on par, in my opinion, to what Project Tango could do, just by utilizing a camera and the sensors inside your phone, now they're shutting down Project Tango because there's no need for devices with these additional sensors anymore, which is pretty cool, in my opinion. And it makes sense.
And yeah, the fact that AR Core is caught up to Project Tango, because you were saying Tango required all this extra hardware on a phone, which made them look beefy and like unwieldy. This means that Google's going to be able to build way more powerful devices for the same size. So like, imagine an AR Core Developer Preview phone or AR Core phone with the same size and hardware capabilities of a Tango phone. Imagine what like that would be able to do. So,
and it's not just for, so we mentioned the stickers. Those are exclusive to the Pixel phones, but this AR Core can be used on any phone, I think, running 7.0 and above, I think. I have to confirm that.
I think you're right.
It has support over 100 million devices worldwide. So that's fairly good amount of Android phones out there.
Just a few,
100 million. So it's competing directly with the AR efforts that Apple launched during WWDC of this year. That also doesn't require any special hardware. So it matches, I think, the performance of that. I would love to see more and more real world uses of AR. I know the stickers are cool and fun, but how often are you going to actually use that other than showing off to your friends? But like the one that I really like is the IKEA version of it, where you have the IKEA app and you can put literally any furniture that's in the app in a real space and see how it would look like if you actually bought it. That's a really cool application of this AR technology. I've seen others on the Apple side, like the one for doing measurements. That was pretty cool, to do measurements on your floor in augmented reality. So you can just point to 2 locations on your floor and it'll say exactly what the distance is in between them. I think there's also an app available on Android that does the same thing using AR Core. It's really
I think there's some stuff people are playing with, but I've seen videos of people playing with some of the AR Core stuff on their phones. Yeah,
I tested this. I lined up a huge line of stormtroopers in like a wavy line, so like they were all over the place, but they were standing right behind one another, and I walked away from them completely where they were out of sight, and then when I turned my phone back to where they were exactly where I left them. Like the sensing in this is really, really impressive. It's kind of crazy.
One thing I haven't tried is, what if you left the room? Can you see them anymore through the wall? Or
I think you still can. It doesn't detect walls yet. It does detect the only thing that it detects. I think it's the ambient lighting. So if you're in a darker room, the shadows on the objects that are in AR will also be matching the ambient light within the room, which is really cool.
I dropped BB-8 into a bar, and I slid him into a dark corner, and he became almost invisible.
That's pretty
Poor
cool.
guy.
Yeah, it was cool though. It's cool that they're actually considering lighting, and I'm sure that as AR Core gets more fleshed out, they're gonna do depth detection in walls and
Yeah, detectives like, oh, there's a wall, so I shouldn't.
Mhm. Have you had them interact with each other yet, or you?
Yeah, so I put down a stormtrooper and BB-8, and when you walk up to a stormtrooper, yeah, it says stand back or go back. When you start getting close to them, BB-8 also like makes extra beeping noises when you go up to it, when you walk up to it.
Some of them will interact with each other too. Like I
Yeah.
dropped BB-8 and R2, and they kind of had a conversation with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool, and the future of AR is exciting. And this is just like the entertainment value stuff. We're not even going to be going into like the practical uses for AR. And
I think it has a huge use in like the commercial realm, like
oh yeah,
like the IKEA kind of stuff you're talking about. I think I mentioned in an earlier episode, but like checking out new hairstyles or like how glasses are gonna look on you,
mm-hmm.
how you're gonna look in those LeBron sneakers, like
yeah, and even there's other uses too, like Google detailed like when you point the camera at a store, like you see Yelp reviews pop up for that restaurant or
yeah.
That's coming in the assistant soon, hopefully.
Yeah. So and they're coming. So I'm excited to see what people make with this, because since these are both development platforms, it's open to people to develop and produce their own ideas. And I'm sure the coolest ones are gonna surface all over the place.
I'm really starting to wonder how this is going to take shape now. I mean, I've been messing around with the Daydream, as you guys know, and like just kind of that concept of viewing Netflix in a virtual. If any listener doesn't know, the Daydream is Google's like VR headset that you use with your smartphone. So like my Pixel 2 XL, and it like puts me in a log cabin to watch Netflix when I use the Netflix VR app. I'm curious if they have some kind of like, I guess, glasses for AR when that becomes applicable. I'm not sure what form that's going to take, but it'd be cool if you could like, make all your windows look like it's snowing outside, or put a projector screen up on your wall of whatever you want to stream. And
well, I think they showed some of those at CES, glass that works as an LCD panel. So you could have or as a screen, so you could like display stuff over the screen, which is pretty cool. But maybe we'll see a return of Google Glass, but in way less of a broy type annoying person way. So but before that though, we're going to get internet access via laser beams. So this is pretty cool. They already the Alphabet wants to deliver internet access through lasers. So this is going. Oh, what's that?
I just said freaking lasers.
I'm starting to think Alphabet's owned by Dr. Evil or something.
Yeah. So they're going to. It's basically going to be, I think, a substitute for optical cables and for fiber internet. It will involve, they say, in India, they're rolling it out in India, will feature 2,000 boxes installed as far as 20 kilometers, which is 12 miles for you Americans, apart on posts and roofs. So it's expected to hit 20 gigabits from box to box. So 20 gigabits of speed per second from box to box over the span of 12 miles, which is insane. That's absolutely insane.
It is.
Can you imagine, like, instead of setting up an Ethernet cable, you just you plug something into your box and then you plug something into your router, and you just set up a bunch of mirrors between them just to deflect this like heavy red laser through your house.
I'm just like really curious how they're gonna get around interference and signal blocking with this stuff.
Yeah, because they're saying that there's a lot of atmospheric disturbances like rain, snow, fog, dust, heat, and that just mean, and also you're gonna probably get someone staring into the laser at one point or another.
I mean, we were talking about a couple episodes back, like a new venture in technology using basically like wireless. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank here. there's a new like a Wi-Fi sort of form of transferring electricity.
For ambient charging.
Yeah. So like I
If you
know
could-
the same issues were present there, and they're seeing how, the environment would affect that. I wonder if Alphabet is working together with those who are researching that kind of stuff.
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that just having this in certain countries, because I'm assuming this would start off being used in third world countries and countries that have underdeveloped infrastructure for internet and broadband capability. So even if you're starting from 20 gigabits and you have 10% interference, you're still getting 18 gigabits per second of speed. So, I mean, going from nothing to 20 gigabits with intermittent interference, depending on if it's monsoon season or not, is like incredible for some of these communities. And and lasers are much cheaper than laying lines. So,
Yep.
which is awesome because you will probably still have to lay lines, but the distances will be far shorter. You could just shoot internet between two developments, and that's it, which is awesome. So I think this is exciting, and I think this is a huge step forward in connecting the rest of the world to the internet.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
yeah.
So last week we talked about Amazon and Google. Google started to block Amazon from accessing YouTube on their Echo Show devices. So there's a little feud in between these two companies. And I think we mentioned this, that Amazon hasn't been selling Google Chromecast devices or Apple TVs for that matter, because they're selling competing Fire Stick or Fire TV devices that pretty much do the same thing as the Chromecast and the Apple TV. So for the past few years, Amazon hasn't been selling those devices on their website, but now, as of a couple days ago, Amazon is now back at selling Apple TV and Google Chromecast again. So what this sounds like is those two companies, there are three companies, Apple, Amazon, and Google, are in the talks again to play nicely. Amazon just launched recently on the Apple TV as well. So now you can watch Amazon Video on the Apple TV. Maybe that's why they put the Apple TV back on, because now you can actually watch Amazon content on the Apple TV. I think Amazon is just using their power to control what people can buy and what services are available on these devices. And I think it's not right to do that. People should be able to buy a device on Amazon even if it doesn't support Amazon's own services. And most of the time it's even up to Amazon to actually provide that service. It's not the manufacturer's fault that device doesn't offer Amazon, which is kind of interesting. But it's
very petty, to say the least, between Amazon and Google. But I just find it funny that they timed this for right as the holiday season is ending and not at the beginning of the holiday season, so they could at least cash in on some revenue from hosting these products. But a couple of the examples that the article mentions about this bitter argument between Google and Amazon is, if you were to ask an Echo device to order a Chromecast, Amazon would automatically put a Fire Stick in your cart instead.
Oh my God.
And in retaliation to that, Google pulled YouTube from the Echo Show and announced to remove the app from Fire TV. And Amazon claims that this amounts to selectively blocking customer access to an open website, but it's a two-way street here, Amazon. So you can't just say one thing and look over your shoulder on the other thing that's going on. But now maybe they'll actually put a Chromecast in your shopping cart instead of a Fire Stick.
Yeah. So now it's just Google and Chromecast devices. The Google Home is still not available, and neither are any of the Nest devices that Google also develops. They are still absent from the Amazon.com webpage. So right now it's only Chromecast that you can buy, but baby steps. Amazon is
also
Maybe still.
So maybe something might have happened between now and then, because I'm on the Amazon listing for the Chromecast Ultra and it says currently unavailable. So maybe
it's
not yet.
sold out.
Yeah, let me see if the Chromecast is available. I'm curious now. That's got me. Oh, that's unavailable too. So interesting.
What about the
Let's see
Apple
the Apple
TV
TV.
live? Testing it live.
Yeah, I'm checking that now. I'm checking that now. Let's see. So that way nobody goes and picks up some stuff. Let's see here. Is it available? Apple TV is unavailable. Apple TV is 4K is unavailable. Okay, so Amazon's back to usual business at Amazon.
Yeah.
Well, now they're at least showing up. Previously, they weren't even showing up on the site, even available or unavailable. So, but now
there's probably a rollout.
Sure.
They're probably rolling it out. Maybe if somebody else went and tried it. But yeah, I'm not going to necessarily know when it happens, but just I guess we can expect to see it in the next few days because, yeah, like you said, they are now posted on Amazon. So
at least there's that.
Yeah, maybe Google will spin around after this and give Amazon YouTube back. So we'll see. But
bigger.
Yeah. So I think that covers everything for the show. If anybody has any closing notes to talk about, but if not, then I guess we can begin the plugs. So do you guys want to plug your stuff before we go into the show? Or I know you guys have been, Jeff, I know you said you were going to be getting back into working on some beats.
Yeah, I started to a little bit now that I have some downtime.
Nice.
You could find any of the beats you hear in this episode or a couple other beats I put together at soundcloud.com/thejbones spelled out. I am looking to get more content up there for you in the near future. Some old stuff, but check it out.
Nice. And I'm going to just go ahead and go through our notes. So as for the show, you can find us on various social media platforms, as you probably already know. You can find us where we on Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, as well as Podbean, our host site at Industry4o, all spelled out. Facebook, we typically keep up to date with some news, and we just recently had an important post from the repealing of net neutrality. So anybody who wants to, I collated a list of the episodes in which we had brought up information about net neutrality and posted them in there for your information if you wanted to do some more research. And later in the week, we will also be doing a deep dive on net neutrality itself. So just a little tangent there for some information on stuff we have coming up later in the week. And as for everything else, you can find us if you want to listen to the show. If you're not watching us live on Twitch, YouTube, or Periscope, you can catch us on Podbean, Google Play, and iTunes at Industry 4.0. And you can also find our feed on any of your favorite podcasting apps. So with that, that's been episode 32. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.
Hello.
Hello,
Oh,
hello,
oh, so toasty in this cabin.
hello.
That looks really good, actually.
It does.
I worked on it, and I did a thing.
Yeah.
It's awfully green outside though for some reason for this time of year. I don't know what's
Well,
going on.
warm climate. That's why my wood
Okay.
fire's off in the background.
Okay.
One thing I ask you to do is do not ask me to raise my left hand.
Oh, can
Or
you
else
reach? Can you reach over to your left hand? Grab something.
Hey, how many fingers am I holding up?
Hey, can you go over and touch that table? Is that real pine or is that not?
There we go.
The
Oh my goodness.
table's got some sharp edges.
Hmm.
It's taking your hand all the way off.
What? Oh man. Kinks. Gotta work out the kinks. Anyway. All right. Enough habdashery.
What?
I don't know. What?
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 You walk.
What?
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 Okay. To break the silence. Network neutral.
On a scale from 1 to neutral, the net.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys want to do the typical intro and everything? Like,
Ervin picked a different one for the last episode.
Yes. Do you listen? I missed it. Looks like not.
I was not able to listen.
You should listen to it so you know the song.
Yeah, it's one of yours, but you'll know.
We figured that we'd separated the intro so that way people knew it was something different.
That's the one I used, and the end one is different too. At the end, so if you want to listen to the end one too.
Welcome everybody to, if you can get through any kind of information photos that we think you guys would find interesting.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, this has been the inaugural episode of i4o Explains, and hope you guys learned something today. So, see you guys in the next one.
What?
All right. Been playing some throwback J Buds.
Yeah.
Like it. All right. You guys want me to do a new, like, i4o Explains instead of Welcome to Industry 4.0?
You could.
You
should
can.
also change that to Welcome to i4o for the
Yes.
new episodes.
Welcome to i4o. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Explains template.
It's good to have a couple episodes with the overlap because this says Welcome to Industry 4.0 and then I say Welcome to i4o. Gets people used to the difference, and then now we just fully convert everything over to Welcome to i4o.
You want to update our logo or no?
Yeah, Katie said that she'd work on one.
Welcome to i4o.
What?
Like,
That- That sounded.
Welcome to i4o.
Ooh, she sounds nice.
you liked hers?
Welcome to i4o.
Oh, our British lady's so nice.
Welcome to Industry 4.0.
Yeah, I like the British lady.
I have to find that same converter.
Well, we can do that after. Let's start the episode.
If you want to wait 1 second, I'm going to do a quick bathroom break and I'll be back.
1 second.
Blah 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 blah.
Goodbye.
Hello.
Goodbye. Hello.
Goodbye.
It's the AOL one.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Hey, welcome to Industry 4.0. We're all dying. Thanks. That's all for this week.
I know. You don't like having your feet are touched because you're a little princess.
Welcome to Industry 4.0. Our show is actually controlled by Matt's dog. We simply obey her wishes.
I am forced to obey. Oh, he's losing the battle with gravity right now.
Industry 4.0. Now with lower thirds.
And lower standards.
These are great.
Thirds are lower than
have lower
standards.
thirds already?
No, I never
No.
responded to that.
What's up, girl? What you need?
What's she looking for? Something about a project?
Yeah, she's
No, so I think
She's
she
like-
thinks it's a group of people interested in Industry 4.0 discussions.
When
when
she's
it
not
really
wrong.
just our podcast page. Yeah, that's true. I mean, like all 1,000. So when she
Right.
posted it there, she's thinking like,
I got really excited and thought Kyle was here. Every time somebody has audio problems, we should just like fade that sound in the background. Just overdub the audio.
That'd be so good.
Instead of cutting it, we should just fade that over it. Instead of cutting it, we should just fade that over it. Yes. Instead of cutting it, we should just fade that over it.
Ervin,
What?
what are you doing?
I'm trying to listen to a stream, make sure it sounds good. That's all. Now we're good.
All right, well, I guess we'll just do the regular intro. And we'll do your intro, Ervin. I'll just record.
My intro? What do you mean?
Well, if we're gonna broadcast, right?
Yeah.
And you have new music that you have for the intro and outro.
Yeah, but I don't have it saved or clipped or anything. I should have. I just did that manually inside of the thing.
Okay. Well, I'll figure it out later then, and we can just do a countdown to start. Cool. Yeah.
What?
Yes.
What?
What?
I'm just gonna hit record. It's gonna go click, 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 and then we'll start. And there's gonna be no music or anything.
Okay. I'll just count down. Is that what you're saying?
You won't have to count down. It'll be like this.
And at the end of that, I'll just start.
Yes.
Okay. Well, just so I know what I'm doing.
All right. I
right.
suppose I'm ready.
I suppose I'm ready too. Hey guys, welcome to i4o Explains episode 2. We have another topic, a little bit more important than Bitcoin because it impacts a few more people. But I'm joined today by Jeff and Ervin. How is everyone doing on this fine morning?
Doing great, Matt.
Yeah, doing well.
Always good to hear you guys. But yeah, we have a very important topic today. The topic for today's show is net neutrality. So we just wanted to cover, for anybody who hasn't heard our prior episodes where we've kind of broken it down in bits and pieces scattered through articles that we found, we wanted to break it down all the way for people over the span of a longer period of time to focus on what net neutrality is and what it means for not the businesses and the ISPs and the government and the laws, but what it means for you as a consumer and what it means for innovation and the ability for competition to grow in the internet. So we had a post the other day when it was repealed, which, to catch anybody up, net neutrality was officially repealed by Ajit Pai and the FCC. The move was started to formalize the repeal on, I think that was Wednesday or Thursday. I forget it's been a few days, but either way, it's still repealed. So what this means, and I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in on it, is it's not very good for the consumer, and it's not what those government officials are saying it is. I understand why they did it. I understand the reasons, but it's a very misguided approach in what they did to repeal net neutrality. So I guess we can just start with what net neutrality is. So net neutrality is just the ability for all internet competition to progress naturally without any kind of influence from service providers and any kind of deals that are circulated around those ISPs and companies. So, for example, you have AT&T and DirecTV. They have a deal. So the ability for other video streaming services to still compete with DirecTV, even though DirecTV is owned by a service provider. So I don't know what you guys think about that. That could be a whole different topic in general. ISPs owning services and having a stake in that market, but it's a dangerous next few steps that we're kind of forced to take because of this policy change. So, and I think that there's going to be some backlash in Congress, but I'm a little worried about where the internet is going. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in, but
yeah. So immediately, it's not going to affect this change that was voted on the 14th. It's not going to affect people immediately, but it could potentially, right? It removes the regulations that were holding these ISPs back from launching any of these types of throttling services to perhaps prefer one service over another. Comcast is the owner of NBC, so they could push those type of services faster to you than Netflix. Any Netflix content, that's one example. But yeah, so immediately it doesn't have any effect, but it just removes any of the restrictions that these companies might have had through the previous rules.
Yes.
And okay.
You were talking about how we feel about them owning services. Even a step, I guess, more shallow than that is how they can affect services. Because internet providers, some things they can do. They can, implement things like fast and slow lanes of traffic to different sites and services. They can prioritize their own traffic. Various apps and services can be blocked completely. And basically all they have to do is tell the public that they're doing it.
So they can just essentially shut down services without telling people. And this has happened before in the past too. And in the show notes we'll have a link to a WCC Tech article, which was also posted in the Facebook post that we had about a net neutrality timeline of abuses that were done prior to net neutrality being instantiated in 2004. So anybody who's telling you that the internet was perfectly fine before net neutrality obviously has not looked back at history. A good example is in 2012, AT&T was blocked, or they blocked FaceTime because the company didn't like competition for their own video service. Netflix started in 2014 started paying Verizon and Comcast to improve streaming service for customers, which raised the cost of streaming for Netflix users. So they're not seeing the writing on the wall. They're ignoring the bigger picture in that these deals cost companies money, and that money either forces them out of the market or doesn't let them, or puts a burden on the consumer to pay a higher fee to use their service. And it's not good. And same thing in 2007 to 2009, AT&T forced Apple to block Skype as well. So, like, it's something that could lead to not only just censorship of services, but censorship of speech. So AT&T censoring Pearl Jam in 2007 because their lead singer criticized President Bush. Like, it's not...
That's where it starts getting crazy.
Yeah, like, it hasn't been all hunky-dory since the start of the internet. It's these companies, since they've become big, they are exerting control that we could not have predicted when we created the internet in the 1990s and in the 1980s. It's something that just purely we couldn't accommodate for. And a lot of people have made the push saying that internet service providers need to be classified as a Title II carrier, or common carrier. So they're just the host of the pipes, and that's it. They don't have any influence on who gets a faster stream in the pipes and who doesn't, because in the essence, that in itself is killing the open market and competition. So it's kind of a hypocrisy to say that net neutrality being repealed is saving the market and allowing it to be free. It is allowing it to be free, but in a market, it's free in a market controlled by government lobbies and companies with a lot of power. So
yeah,
you got to kind of pick the lesser of two evils here.
The owners of the most relevant form or medium in which you receive your information.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, there's like 3 or 4 major ISPs in the whole country, so there isn't very much competition between them. And our listeners in Europe probably are looking over, wondering why our speeds have only just now started to catch up with theirs. And this is what happens when you're in a market starved from competition. Because over in Europe, there are countries that they're competing. I think it's all the way down to like 20 euros a month for gigabit speeds, or for like very close to gigabit. And it's something that we have to pay upwards of $90 to $100 some dollars a month.
And the reason why that's so cheap is because of competition. I've experienced this because I'm from Hungary. When I went back there a couple summers ago, I looked at what the offerings were in terms of the internet out there, and irrelevant of where you live in I'd say 90% of the areas, you have a choice of from like 3 or 4 different internet service providers out there. And the reason why it's so cheap for everyone to get really good speeds in a lot of those areas outside of the US is because the lines that are used to get people the internet, right? The lines that go to their house are owned by typically not specifically owned by a particular ISP, or if they are owned by a particular ISP, from regulation by the government, that ISP has to allow other service providers to also let them use that same exact line. And because of that, it offers more options for the customer in terms of what choice that they have. They don't have to use the provider that laid down that line to the house. So that way you have 3 or 4 service providers competing against one each other, and then most people are always going to go with the cheapest, fastest option. So whoever can make it cheaper or faster, right, will win out, because more and more people will buy that service. So that's where that competition comes in, and And that's how the prices get lower. That's just from my personal experience. That's how it was in Hungary, but it could be different in other places, of course. But just wanted to chime that in.
Yeah, and this could very quickly devolve into a political show. But in the interest of keeping this, not to make a play on words, but neutral, I would just like to say that the vote to repeal net neutrality was straight down party lines. And that, I think, in itself is indicative of a larger problem with how these policies are decided within this country. And taking a partisan approach to an issue that is nonpartisan in nature, and by definition, because it impacts everybody, and it's about the internet itself as a carrier, that is a dangerous precedent, I think, to set. And they're creating a bipartisan issue out of something that isn't bipartisan. It's something that is on a national level.
Yeah, and polls have recently also come out, not just to get more into the political side of things, but both Republicans and Democrats, in terms of the public, right, who identify as one of those two, both on the majority, 50 to 60% plus, support net neutrality. So even though the FCC has voted to repeal it, and the vote was from Republicans that turned that over, the public still support, like, they want net neutrality irrelevant of what party lines that they're part of. They want to support net neutrality, and it's very interesting that the SEC sort of ignored their constituents, right? The majority.
Yeah. There was all kinds of rumors that were being spread that the bots were being used to comment with real American names in favor of the repeal of net neutrality. And I think there's even a running investigation that's underway to have this vote be brought to an official investigation on ignoring a democratic process in getting to this. And something else that's important to note is, I could be mistaken, but I'm fairly certain that the three people that voted in favor, Ajit Pai and the other two Republican chairmen, were previously Verizon lobbyists, or lobbyists of various ISPs in the past, or were paid. The majority of their payments came from telecom companies. So this seems very influenced in a way. Like this vote was bought almost. And the approach to essentially those, I don't know if you guys have seen the videos that have come out with the FCC, and we have a couple. I think we have the one in the show notes that they did with Ajit Pai doing several videos. Like, it's almost like he's mocking the American people in a way.
Yeah, or mocking the internet as a whole. Yeah, right.
It's unprofessional, and it's not a way to approach this issue. Instead of having a discussion, just making fun of the majority of the constituents who have voiced their opinion on it, I think it's unprofessional. I just don't like it.
That video was also taken down for up to 6 hours because the copyright claimed the person, Bauer, who's the artist who made the Harlem Shake music. He put out a copyright notice against that video, and that got it taken down from YouTube because he didn't want to support his music being used for that type of activity.
Yeah. I don't understand. Like, I just don't understand why this vote is going to go to the lower circuits of court and Congress, and it's going to go to votes there, and there's already push to delay the vote. So we may not see any action from this repeal right away, like we were saying in the beginning of the show. It may take some time before this is actually looked at and reviewed. But it's not a good start. And there have been inflammatory posts on both sides claiming one way or the other on why this is good or why this is bad. And while all of them are by themselves factually accurate. None of them look at the bigger picture. So the quickest thing that you'll see from any kind of conservative news organization towards net neutrality, they would be quick to note that this is good for competition because it eliminates federal regulation from the market. While, yes, that is what they are doing, they're ignoring the fact that this market is controlled by 3 super companies that have control over the entire nation, that have openly admitted to not competing with one another.
Right.
So, in a way, they need to be regulated, and they need to have some kind of laws that state that they are a service provider, and they are not, or they're not a service provider, but they are a carrier of services, and they should not have in any way influence over, because it's just moving it from the government to the corrupt ISPs, who are in it for a profit, and it's their bottom line to make deals. So it's unhealthy in that form, and the government in that way would be the neutral third party regulating this industry that has now been so heavily controlled by ISPs in the past.
I think one of the most main focal points of this, based on what you're saying, is that the government is supposed to represent the people, and it looks like they're representing the companies instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That doesn't catch you. I don't know what does.
Yeah, and telecom lobbying is at an all-time high as well these past few years. And especially now that there is a conservative government in power, it's their push to revert regulation on Obama-era policies, and this is just one of them. So it's something, like I said, they're ignoring the bigger picture. And then when you look at, even on the liberal side of this, a lot of them are quick to say that it will increase prices for the consumer, and ISPs could charge you whatever they want, and ISPs could basically price gouge you out of having internet. And while that is feasibly true, it's misguided in that they're going to do what best influences their stockholders, and if their shareholders can no longer afford internet, then they're no longer going to invest in that company, and that company is going to have to bring their prices down to a realistic level. But it's not all doom and gloom in that they could do that, but it's the additional powers they get in being able to make deals with services that is dangerous. And even we've gone in so far as to say that ISPs could roll out tiered plans on their services, and that's entirely plausible. They could totally do that if they wanted to, and if it helps their bottom line and it helps their stocks, then they're going to do it.
I'm confident they're going to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's also a big push to. It could also be something to. It could impact cryptocurrency. It could impact every emerging piece of technology, and it could really stunt innovation. And you may even see America fall behind in that regard, in favor of people leaving the country to go work for companies in other countries that don't have as many restrictions. So it would be interesting to see the companies standing out. And I know Netflix and Apple and Google, Alphabet have all come out in favor of net neutrality and have openly stated that they are in support of it. So it's going to be a long fought battle in terms of the policies. But it's important to follow this. If whether you're interested in it or you're not, it impacts how everybody uses the internet every day. So, but with that, I think we can focus a little more on the impact on the specific users. We've kind of talked a little bit about the policies and the government, but I think it might be good for the viewer to know what this means for them. And what this means for them, it could be a wide margin of things. The 2 quickest notes could potentially be, as we said, higher service fees. It'll still be a realistic increase, but it would be an increase still. So your internet bill may go up. They could force different tiered plans down your throats, like restricting. I know even mobile companies have started doing this. Verizon and T-Mobile paying a higher fee in order to get HD streaming from various sites, even if the plan from that website you have allows HD streaming. So it's restricting bandwidth, restricting quality of the content, and they could openly throttle a company, such as what's been mentioned in these history of abuses article. They could throttle services just because that they have a deal with another one. So they could, for example, Metro PCS, one of the top 5 wireless carriers in 2011, announced plans to block streaming services over its 4G network from everybody except YouTube. So that gets rid of Netflix, it gets rid of everything, just YouTube, which is insane. Yep. So this could all come back, and it's hard for people sometimes to look that far back and see the bigger picture, but it's something that people need to focus on. We need to learn from the past. But that in itself is what would impact the user. I don't know if anybody has anything else, but we could talk at end for this for a long time. I'm trying to think of anything else that would be that would have an impact on the consumer. Maybe not that much more. That's basically the bottom line there. But when we go and look at elected officials and policyholders in other countries, it's something that needs to be taken care of and needs to be looked at a deeper level. Because people who say that it hasn't been abused, it has. So
certainly has.
Yeah. So they routinely will use their powers to violate open internet principles, manipulate competition, and engage in censorship. And it's one of those gray areas where it's since it was done by a liberal base, that it's viewed as a bad thing in a conservative controlled government, so it needs to be reversed. But one thing that also is important to note, that it's not necessarily an impact on the consumer, but this is expensive for companies because they can no longer forecast what the internet landscape is going to be 4 years ahead of time. So if there is a Democratic president and they're on their second term, in 4 years, when a conservative president wins, or if a conservative president wins, their policies could completely change, causing the company's infrastructure to alter, because they can no longer forecast what their costs are going to be if they don't know if the ISP above them is going to throttle their service because they have a deal with like Netflix or YouTube or something. So it's good for competition in a way to eliminate government regulation in most scenarios, but it's not in this scenario, because the people who are most heavily impacted in the base of the conservative branch has been a champion of small mom and pop shops and small business. This completely kills entry for small business into a landscape that is controlled by tech giants. Yeah. And even, for example, us, to look at us as an example, if we don't have a deal with, say, like one of the top RSS feed subscribers, they could openly block our feed from going to many open networks, or they could throttle us in favor of, say, a higher, more popular podcast that's been more established and has been known to get more ad revenue. So
a podcast who has a different outlook on net neutrality. They want to
let
traffic through, but not ours, because we have a different opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the list goes on, and there have been abuses going all the way back to 2005 when North Carolina's ISP Madison River blocked voice over IP services, Vonage. It blocked them. So it goes on, and it's something that people need to follow, and it's something that people need to be informed about, because there's dangerous, uninformed information going from both sides. I know I saw a bunch of tweets from various sources, news saying that it's like the end of the world and the internet itself is going to be destroyed, and it's like very doom and gloom. And it's not doom and gloom, because we have only had net neutrality policies for the past 2 years, but the abuses are bad. That is something that people need to know. And you have other people, like, I don't know if you guys saw Donald Trump Jr.'s tweets from the other day when he was stating that net neutrality is Ajit he claimed was a Barack Obama FCC chairman voted him in for the FCC chair, when in actuality Trump instated him in January. So people were trying to spin Ajit Pai's coming into power and the reason, and like trying to explain the repeal of net neutrality as a liberal problem, not a conservative or not a national issue. And it's dangerous to spin it in a political way, when in actuality it's something that was done by, one, your own party, and two, a person who is heavily influenced by lobbying. So, but in the sake of rambling, I think we have covered a lot in terms of net neutrality and what it is. And I was wondering if any of you guys had any additional points to bring up before we wrap the show up, if you had anything else.
I just wanted to make point that it's still not over, right? Even though that the FCC has voted to repeal it, you could still find it. You could still get in contact with your congressperson. Make sure that you voice your opinion that you do not want this to happen to the internet. You want to protect it, so it's still valid that you contact your representative. The easiest way to do that is just go to battleforthenet.com, and then you can enter your email address, your name, and it'll automatically figure out who your appropriate congressperson is, so it goes to the right person based on where you live. And you can also text as well. You can text battle to 384-387, and then it'll contact your congressperson to stop the to voice your opinion as well. So I just wanted to make that highlighted, so that people still know that they still have the opportunity to change, right? This isn't over yet, and this fight.
Yes. And also it's important to note too that people should go onto the FCC postings for these policies and review comments under their name to make sure that no comments have been posted falsely under your name. Because even if you don't say anything, a bot might have said something for you.
Yeah.
And that is a dangerous precedent. You could go in and you could flag that comment, and you could probably put it back into a review or report the comment or something such as that to get it taken down. Because even if you don't say anything and a bot says something for you, then all of a sudden your opinion to the FCC is totally different. So whether it's one way or another, and I'm not here to make it political, I'm here to keep it factual. So it's something. Yeah.
I'd encourage you to talk to your peers, your family, your friends about the issue too. Again, if it would better suit you, don't make it a political issue, but talk about the pros and cons and what this might do to the landscape of the internet and the way that we currently enjoy it. And just consider what's happening here and whether or not this concerns you. I tend to think it does.
Right. It impacts everybody, and even just like we were saying, looking at the list of abuses, it's happened before, so we can't ignore the issue, and it'll happen again. And I can only imagine it would get worse, the abuses, especially with the political climate and the types of deals that and mergers that we have talked about in past episodes as well. It's very possible ISPs could merge, and this political landscape, not necessarily in terms of just who is in office, but the policies that are being put through, such as the repeal of net neutrality, this paves the way for those mergers to go through legally. And I think you could very easily see a reopening of the Comcast and Time Warner and the AT&T mergers that we've talked about in previous episodes. I think we could see them again. So it's something we'll have to follow and report on as we get it. But I hope this helps. I hope you guys learned something, because I did doing a little bit of research. But yeah, so I think with that, then I think we can wrap the episode up and close out episode 2 of i4o Explains, another successful explanation of what's happening. And for those of you who are new and for those of you who are just joining the networks, we are available on a multitude of platforms. We stream weekly on Sunday morning to Twitch, YouTube, and Periscope. You can find us on any of the major podcasting apps. If you can't catch us live, you can find us on Google Play, iTunes, soon to be hopefully Stitcher, and anywhere that you could find a RSS feed player on either the Android store or the computer. If you wanted to keep up with us on social media, we post fairly frequently to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Industry4o, all spelled out. And feel free to leave us any reviews as well, because reviews help make our show better and help make your listening experience better. Any kind of listener feedback is welcome. You can leave a review on iTunes or on Facebook. And if you do, we will read your reviews, or I will read them live, just to give you guys a bit of a shout out if you have anything you'd like to plug. And there was one additional thing I wanted to comment on this that I can't remember now. But yeah, that is us. And we also have, I remember now. We also have a weekly show that we do on top of this on Sundays for our news. So this is the channel for deeper explanations of important topics, but our main show is a summary of the week's news in technology. So with that, this has been i4o, and we hope to see you guys in the next one of our shows.